Today I will narrate my Subnautica story with 30 hours of content in just one video. If it's your first time here, you may not believe I'm able to produce so swiftly, but if you just ask my wife, I'm sure she'll confirm it. Much like my father's first marriage, I crashed and burned onto a strange planet. It is known as Planet 4546b. You know you're a failure in life when you crash land on the backup planet. After being pin slapped by a piece of metal and knocked out, I woke up to a hotbox life pod where I was given an unsolvable riddle of how to put out this fire. I figured the fire extinguisher laying at my feet could provide the solution, and I was correct. What else is new? I then explored the vast life pod to see what bells and whistles it had. I found a fabricated radio and other damaged parts that were probably important but I could care less about. Following a logical thought process, I climbed a ladder to see what hellhole I just landed in. That is when I was greeted by the outcome of the ship I just evacuated from, named the Aurora. Looked like a small fender bender to me. By the looks of it, I landed on an ocean planet which can produce oxygen to breathe. That fact is only important for me, because dead crew members don't need oxygen. Regardless, I started checking out the area around me, knowing that I was now officially in the ring against survival. The very first thing I found and picked up without hesitation were acid mushrooms. I could only hope that my fight for survival would rely on eating them. It would turn this circumstance into a nice trip. It was time to start acting like a real human and start ruining the environment to increase my quality of life. I did this by mining rocks on the ocean floor. While doing this, I met my first adversary, exploding suicidal fish. The best self-defense mechanism if you ask me. You can't kill me if I kill me first. I eventually fixed the radio, and this begins the progression of the main story of Subnautica. To create more advanced items, you have to find blueprints out and about the world. So I started exploring the wrecks further from my life pod to scan items that may aid in my survival. After finding a few new items and collecting some resources, I went back to store it and craft more food and water. This is when the Aurora's drive core exploded, releasing radiation out into the ocean. What a shame. Cancer patients could have used that radiation. Once you get the radio fixed, it gives you previous transmissions of your other crewmates. You learn the locations of where they crash landed in their own pods, so you can go find them. I went to check on Life Pod 17 and its crew members. Here I found the Seamoth blueprint, some data, and asserted my dominance against the sand shark. There were no dead bodies though. Guess I'll just starve. The Seamoth made getting further and deeper a lot easier, equivalent to lube. I was able to venture off to more wrecks and distress signals to progress the story. Much like my future child, I made a mistake. I ventured off a bit too far and this made me shit my wetsuit. Back at camp, I received yet another radio signal. This time it was about a passing cargo ship named the Sunbeam and would be landing to help in 40 minutes. While heading to the rendezvous point, I traveled through deeper water and encountered new biomes and scarier sea life, like this thing that worked right in front of me. And just like my stepfather when he entered the house that one night, I turned around and never came back. I made it to the meeting point with plenty of time to spare. I attribute this success to not having my wife backseat driving. As I breached through this opening similar to the birth of a baby, you're welcome for that visual, I picked up a voice log which then directed me to a different meeting point for the Sunbeam. Here I found some unimportant blueprints, learned about the Degassi survivors, and found nutritious plants. Unfortunately, none of them get you high. Trust me, I tried. Although there was a moment I thought I could be high because I found an alien arch. Not really sure what it did at the time, so I just ignored it like my ex. Right before leaving the mountain island, I found something even more interesting than a sexually shaped alien arch. A purple tablet. This seemed important, so I stuffed it in my inventory and made my way to the Sunbeam meeting location. I arrived at the meeting point with just 3 minutes to spare. Then like a Transformer movie, the entire alien structure started moving different paths and rotating as the Sunbeam ship was just 30 seconds from arriving. After that sound, I knew something bad was going to happen. That was like a battle cry before you get slaughtered by a charging army. I guess the aliens like their meat well done. It was decided. I no longer wanted to be anywhere near this wannabe Optimus Prime. If I was going to be stuck here until I disabled whatever that just was, I was going to need a base. Well, that took much longer than expected, but I now have a fully functioning pleasure palace. Let me give you the tour. For the first base, I kept it super simple. One room with the bare necessities. It sits on a couple of foundations which provide a good parking spot for the Seamoth. By now you're probably wondering, what the heck is this thing above me? Well, I'll show you that in a bit. I had a plan and it was a damn good one. Anyways, if you just follow me inside, you can see I have a nice layout complete with storage, radios, and fabricators. But now it's time to get back to work on the rest of this project. You see, I had not made any active steps to leave the planet, so this was my first step in doing so. I decided for the best chance of survival that I needed to send a message to the aliens. I spent way too long designing this highly advanced base, but I think the message is loud and clear. Don't worry, if you have no idea what Ligma is, I will clearly explain it at the end of this video, so make sure you stick around for that. The only thing left to do was to officially mark this base of operations with a beacon so I can always make it back to Ligma. After the little station was complete, I continued to progress the story, which means going deeper. To do this, you need a submarine called the Cyclops that can withstand those depths. So I went out to explore more wrecks and biomes to try to find the blueprints for it. Exploring these wrecks is not an easy task. Some of them are large and it gets very disorienting when moving through them. Here I explored a bit too long and was unable to recover. Cause of death? Asphyxiation. Another addition to the base I made was the moon pool, which is a nice docking bay for your sea moth. Just like my second future child, I made another mistake. Forgot that by adding the ligma part of the base, the hull integrity was already near 0 before adding the moon pool. Basically, the deeper and bigger the base you build, more structure it needs or this will happen. But if you just slap some of that fancy flex tape on the holes you see in the commercials about and add some reinforcements, it's just like brand new. Remember earlier when I mentioned I learned about the Degassi survivors on that island? Yeah, I wouldn't remember that either. Anyways, they are another batch of humans taken down by this planet. The survivors of that crash built a few bases around the area. I wonder what was going through their mind wanting to build a base next to some aggressively sperm-resembling creatures. I went ahead and put on my big boy pants and navigated their shit shack of a base to find their voice log and a few blueprints as well. Then on my way out, I got tagged by the dripping stingers hanging from the entrance of the base, and I was sent back to Ligma while losing a bit of my progress. Cause of death? Jellyfish. What a manly way to go out. A very large portion of my time in Subnautica was spent gathering resources and exploring wrecks to find new things. This game is actually really creepy. Not saying I was scared or anything, but I created a habit of always checking behind me periodically when I heard new sounds. But sometimes it doesn't matter how aware you are. Next, I went and explored the Aurora in my radiation suit. This trip was basically a failure. Besides finding some pointless lore pieces in the prawn suit fragment, I was still short on the Cyclops fragments I needed in order to go deeper. But after a long time of searching elsewhere, I finally found a biome that had the pieces I needed. I then headed straight to the Ligma lab to begin my construction of the Long Dong Silver. Here I used the magic of the fabricator to create all the items needed to make the Cyclops. After I had everything, I went up to the vehicle bay at the surface to construct it. Not going to lie, it is much bigger than I thought it would be. And that's what she said. Never thought I'd be giving a tour of my tuna torpedo online, but here we are. At the very bottom is a ton of space storage, and that's about it. The rest of the goods are at the top. Up here you can add the modifications, exchange batteries, and park your sea moth or the prawn suit. Then at the very front you can obviously control the ship, its lights, and even name it. I officially dubbed it the Cavity Explorer and painted it completely pink. Because I knew I was going into the abyss, I created the prawn suit and placed it in the Cyclops. That way I would have another vehicle that can reach those depths. I began going deeper and deeper until I reached the furthest point I had been so far, which was Life Pod 12. From here, there was an entrance into a place called the Lost River. I was risking everything I owned because I had put it all on the Cyclops. Anything tragic at this moment would be a minor setback, just like terminal cancer. I had to very carefully navigate this clumsy submarine through a narrow tight hole right next to the scariest creature I had seen so far. This looked similar to the creature that mauled me at the beginning, but transparent, and I thought I was pale. Eventually I snuck past him and continued along the Lost River. And because I did not want to chance having a romantic cuddle session with that Leviathan guarding the entrance, a second base would be in order. I proceeded by collecting as many resources as I could with the use of the prawn suit. And like Pablo Picasso, I began my work of art. The base layout is pretty simple. A cross design with the scanner room on one end and the moon pool on the other. It is powered by a few generators that sit next to a couple of live geysers. The scanner room was the first room I built because it comes with a couple of camera drones you can fly around the area. Then you can use them to scan for specific resources you need. This was a lifesaver. With the additional space, I was able to create my own captain's quarters. It's essential to not forget where you came from. So I placed a photo of our first love, the Ligma base, on the wall. On the top floor, we have an alien aquarium. I'm pretty sure you can become a baby daddy by placing eggs in here and hatching them, but ain't nobody got time for that. But I've yet to show you the part that elevates this from shit shack to Mona Lisa. Our second message to the alien beings keeping us on this planet. Yep, that's right. Welcome to the Bofa base. If you're still confused, don't worry, I'll explain it near the end along with Ligma. With my base complete, I realized I stopped receiving radio signals. I did all of this work and still managed to accomplish nothing. In response, I did what any middle-aged man does in a crisis. I brewed a coffee, sat in my chair, and just stared out the window. And that's when it hit me. I was so focused on trolling the aliens with my messages that I forgot I didn't even have the cojones to enter the Optimus Prime building. Purple tablets, the alien arches, and buildings must mean something. My adventure back to the surface started by sneaking past the guard at the entrance again. After some time, I finally arrived. The doors were blocked by force fields. However, the idiot aliens left their purple tablets laying around everywhere, so I used it to enter. What morons. I then did what anyone with brain damage would do. I walked right into the alien fortress like I owned the place. For safety, I pulled out my safety rifle, which doesn't really do damage, but will freeze creatures long enough for me to run away like a little coward. I took a few more careful steps, and then, it was at this moment, I effed up. Just like Morning Wood, I shot straight up thanks to an unknown alien force. But to my surprise, it was just a fancy elevator and not a method of dismembering enemies. To summarize my adventure at this location, I found a bright green ion cube that was just another confusing piece to the alien puzzle. and at the end of the building there was a green reactor looking thing, and of course a single button below it. I did what any normally insane human would do, and pressed the button of an alien structure while having little information about it. Can't say I would have predicted I would have been penetrated by an alien probe in Subnautica, but expect the unexpected, I guess. A message was immediately broadcasted by the aliens. Essentially, no one who is infected can disable the building, which meant I was infected. I also found a data tablet that revealed the locations of other alien structures, and that Optimus Prime is actually called the Quarantine Enforcement Platform. It was time to investigate. I Chris Angeled my way back down and ventured off to the next alien structure. In order to get to the next structure, I had to go back towards Bofa and enter that lost river. Although I was 2 for 2 on getting by the ghost Leviathan, I swung and missed this time. I eventually fired off the decoy and ran away from the predator while only sustaining minor damage. I did get a bit careless while running away and did even more damage to the ship by hitting literally everything in the way. There are 2 sounds anyone loves to hear. One is gentle waves crashing into a beach, and the other is, warning, fire detected while you're in a submarine. But with the power of a single button, the fire suppression system began to put out the fire. Due to my panic, I went to the next room to search for a fire extinguisher, not knowing that the button I pressed would close the doors and lock me in with the fire, like some science project. I really thought I was going to die, but wasn't sure if it was going to be by the Leviathan or by becoming a roasted cream filling inside my own submarine. After cheating death, I located the disease research facility, which looked to have collapsed. Another sane choice was made by entering a broken alien disease factory. I think eating those acid mushrooms was a bad idea. In here I found more data, ion cubes, and hanging creature parts. My assistant recommended I scan myself, enlightening me that a bacterial infection has started spreading further in my body. On the way back to the sub, I began to start piecing everything together. The planet is in quarantine, no one can enter or leave, thus the reason why Optimus Prime is so trigger happy. Whatever beings own this structure seemed to have been researching the disease in the facility I had just left. A cure was needed to rid myself of the disease, disable the gun, and then and only then could I find a way to get off this planet. In addition, a code to unlock the captain's door back at the Aurora was also found. During my journey back to the Aurora, yet again, I couldn't resist saying hello to a couple of friends on the way. Once there, I quickly made my way to that locked door, and here's what made things very interesting. I found data on how to make a Neptune escape rocket. I abandoned the Aurora for hopefully the last time. Once enough resources were collected to build the first piece, I made my way up to my beautiful work of art and built the launch pad. Picture perfect. Couldn't have placed it any better. The materials for the next pieces were not too hard to come by, but unfortunately this particular piece required an item I had yet to find, which were the ion boosters. Back to the alien structure that will surely result in my death I go. Before I left, I also upgraded the sub to enable it to survive at deeper depths, and then I went straight to hell, or the lava biome. Both were the same to me. It was difficult to see, so using a sonar on the sub to navigate made it easier, and it was just pretty cool. And when I had thought I had seen it all, as I entered into the next section and looked above, I saw this monstrosity. How the hell am I going to fend off a fire-breathing whatever the heck that is? After settling down, I located the alien structure and snuck in. It was actually inside of some mountain that the big octopus fiery dragon was patrolling above. Here I was attacked by a Boston Dynamic crab robot, but with the help of my gun I stopped that dude right in his tracks. Then I found a new blue tablet and the holy grail of ion cubes. At the center of the structure was another place to use a purple tablet to enter. This place was known as the Alien Thermal Plant and was the power source for the aliens. Above was a data terminal which gave me the ion battery blueprint, which is exactly what I needed to build the rocket. I brought in my prawn suit and drilled the ion cubes. Then I used one of those cubes at one of the alien arches in the thermal plant, which activated it, created some sort of green wall. And you bet your dad's belly button hair that I tucked my nutsack between my legs and walked through that thing to see where it led. To my surprise, it led me back to Optimus Prime, which was actually really convenient because that meant instead of saying hello to the neighboring Leviathan every time I went to the Bofa base, we could just teleport back to Ligma. While I was in the lava biome mining, I was careful to avoid the fire-breathing Leviathan. But much like my future third child, I made yet another mistake. I wish I could explain how I ended up in this situation, but I couldn't even really tell you myself. All I know is that I was now in hand-to-hand combat with a 1/3 dragon, 1/3 fish, and 1/3 octopus. I fired my one and only torpedo, which was equivalent to popping a pimple on my right butt cheek to the dragon. Meanwhile, the monster brought fire to this fist fight. When I landed on the ground, it got distracted and I escaped. Back in the sub, I began searching for the primary containment facility I just learned about. Literally moments after I escaped from the grips of the devil, this lady appears on my head. She said I should seek her for help, but as she's saying that, believe me or don't, a second devil dragon was swimming next to me. But instead of helping me, she just dips, leaving me to fend for myself. Thanks a lot, lady. Fully committed to my mission, unlike Tiger Woods to his marriage, I beelined it for the primary containment facility I had been looking for. Meanwhile, I was being used as a punching bag for the devil himself. Still as brainless as I was at the beginning of this video, I hopped out mid-attack to repair and save the Cyclops. After a few repairs, I then raced towards the alien facility. Phew, that was close. Using the blue tablet to enter the facility, I found myself in the Taj Mahal. In this facility, I found ancient alien relics, an egg laboratory, a pipe room used to pump cool water into an aquarium, and a dissection lab which included Dead Sea Emperor Leviathan fetuses. Weird, I'm kind of hungry all of a sudden. I then unlocked the last force field and jumped into the moon pool. Ah yes. What else should I expect than to be greeted by another effing monster? Give me a break. Here you can see the panic set in while I tried to find a weapon. I ended on the knife. Not the best choice, but what can you expect from someone who has been slapped by metal and died from lack of oxygen a few times? She surprisingly never attacked me. Turns out everything in this aquarium was friendly in Cherno. Underneath the platform was a place to put an ion cube in. That caused 5 eggs to appear in front of me, and the Sea Emperor began talking to me again. To make a short story long, she was trapped in this aquarium where the aliens tried taking enzymes from the Sea Emperors, which was believed to cure the bacterial infection. She practically begged me to be her baby daddy by creating a hatching serum to hatch her babies. In return, I will get the cure for the bacteria. What a gold digger. With the use of warp gates in the facility, I was quickly able to grab the 5 plants needed to make the hatching serum. I then ended back at Death's door. You see, once I had the 5 seeds for the enzyme, I still needed a fabricator to make it, which the closest one was in the Cyclops that was being guarded. I hightailed it to the inside of the sub without agitating the devil Leviathan. I made the hatchling enzyme and made my way back to the eggs. After inserting the enzyme, 5 creepy babies appeared before me, and like a good father, I began to think of how to get out of being responsible for them. The baby mama instructed both me and her children to warp out, knowing that she would eventually die in the aquarium since she was stuck. I was able to realize my fantasy of leaving my family. Who would have thought? But the cure for the bacterial infection was now mine as she promised. And as if I wasn't already creeped out by the nasty alien probing and fetuses laying everywhere, this liquid gel covered my hands. But I was now officially cured. After that, I grabbed the rare resources I mined earlier and warped back to the surface to complete the rocket. Piece by piece, I slowly made the rocket, and with the cockpit built, it was finished. Inside, there were a few buttons to activate along with my favorite part, which was a time capsule. In here, I could leave whatever I wanted behind on this planet. I decided to leave a picture of the Ligma base to solidify its legendary status, along with the final message to the aliens that kept me here. That special note should help explain the true meaning of Ligma and Bofa, as I promised. Take that, you stupid aliens. All that was left to do was to activate the life support system and launch the rocket. After so many hours of trying to get off this planet, battling the most insane sea creatures and building mesmerizing bases, I finally clicked the launch button.
Cannot launch rocket while quarantine. Enforcement platform is still active.
Yikes. I totally forgot to disable Optimus Prime. That could have been a tragic ending. I climbed off the rocket, entered the quarantine protection platform, rode the alien elevator ride for one last time because why not, finally reached the top. After pushing the button, the alien probe did its alien probe thing, and the entire building went pitch black. Made my way back to the rocket, gave a final farewell to the Aurora, my life pod, and of course the Ligma base. Then like Neil Armstrong, I marched into the rocket, sat down, and hit blast off.
1.
Of course, on my way out into orbit, I was smashed by orbital debris. I enjoy being smacked in the face by pieces of metal apparently. But hey, at least I made it off the backup planet with just minor brain damage and a story no one will believe. And that is my Subnautica saga. I will see you in the next one.